Hey, it's Chris, Leisure Games. Would you back in March? I completely did this video before, and I did it at the beginning of the month, and so some of the campaigns that I was backing at the current time were still going, and so I'm just going to refilm it for you guys because I want it to be more up to date with a little caveat, but I'll tell you, what did I back, what didn't I back, and why didn't I back some of the other things that were out there? Because, sometimes that's almost more interesting as well. Let's do this. First part's easy, right? What did I actually back? Sum 8. I kept my abstract pledge for this game. Although my pledge wasn't really abstract. The abstract is the game itself. That's how my day has gone, folks. Let's just put it that way, right out at the beginning of this video. Like, comment, subscribe. I have a Patreon. Subscribe if you're not. I want to get to 10,000. I'm not going to get it, but anything you can do to share this post and help out is great. So I kept it, and you can see here, I kept the Kickstarter edition. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I decided to deluxeify this, even though you could get the plastic version for literally less than half the price of the wooden one. But this is where I chose to deluxeify this time. Because I didn't back much else. I don't need much else. I like the feel of wooden pieces in this game. I think it's going to add a luxury component, sort of like a la Tak, if you will. I love the feel of that. This is just going to be different in that sense. I mean, it raised 30,000 Canadian dollars, which is actually, let's see, what is that, like 20,000 US dollars? Something around there. But that's impressive for an abstract. That's really impressive for an abstract. I cannot understate that. Abstracts do not do well, usually crowdfunding-wise. Abstracts don't do great retail-wise most of the time. So, it needs to be said. What else did I back? Ares Expedition. You back this. You pledge. I refilmed this because one of the things was, this was still ongoing when I filmed the first one. I kept my pledge. I got all 3. Now, again, you can make the argument that it wasn't a good deal. It wasn't a perfect deal. You're not going to get an absolute amazing value. I don't care. Don't care. The only thing I'll say is that when I see 3 of these things all wrapped in together, it's usually, I was almost going to say never there, it's usually not a good value to get all of them if you don't love all of them. If you do love all of them, then yes, it is the best value to get the bundle. But if you don't, you're better off waiting or buying just 1 or 2. Now, in this case, I think that waiting maybe not. If you figure that they're marketing out all 3 of these different expansions, Discovery, Foundations, and Crisis, separately, and they're all going to retail for 20 bucks, because, again, maybe 15 from the online stores if you're lucky. I mean, $15, okay, right? Because they're not going to be as cheap as, like, a Marvel Champions character pack, right? Because those go for, like, 12 or 13 sometimes even 15, depending on how much content's there. And I have to argue that there's probably a little more content in one of these expansions than a Marvel Champions pack. But if you're pricing it that way, $15 each, $45. This is $49. Again, you're going to make the argument of free shipping because I'm going to hit the $100 threshold or whatever it may be, whatever store you're going to choose from. Sure, I won't make that, can't beat that. So again, but you're going to spend $55 more to get other stuff. This is $49. Okay. It's another 15 bucks for shipping. So 64 overall. And what is the value of the promos that are going along with this? That's really the difference, because then you're talking $19 difference for the promos. Some of the promos for the first time around are going for anywhere between $10 and $20. So at worst, it's looking like a wash. If it's any higher priced individually at retail, then this is the better value. And that's why I said, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it, and I'm fine with it. This is a game that's, behind me. It's going to stay in my collection for a long time. I don't have anything else like it. I'm not a fan of the original Terraforming Mars, and this cinches it that I don't need to have the original Terraforming Mars at all. So I'm completely okay with this, and no issues whatsoever. So that was the only other game I ended up fully backing. Now, the one that I went back and forth on, this is Casting Shadows. And that's because I just don't know. I read the rulebook twice through again, and I looked at it mechanically, and I said, this is kind of, I don't know. It's one of those games where in my head, I kind of see it, and I understand it. But in actuality, it seems a lot more finicky and not nearly as dynamic, I guess is the word I'm looking for, that I would like in the play, especially with the different modes. And so now that I've had a chance to reflect on this, I mean, like I said, I kept my $1 pledge. Doesn't show you it here apparently because it's not a pledge level, but I kept my $1 pledge. And it says I'm a backer, see, right there. I could click this and show you, but I just don't know because there's no FOMO here. This would be a pure flip, I think, at this point for me. I would buy it, try it out, and if I didn't like it, I would flip it for a profit. Because, again, I think even the $39 pledge you're going to be able to flip. I would dare say some of the higher pledge levels are going to be flipped for more because you're getting some of these other accoutrements that are going to be more exclusive, because the expansion itself, if you'll notice down here in this pledge level, is not exclusive, which was interesting. And then they even capped it out. So again, like one extra player board, one extra character, a few extra companions, but not a ton. Not nearly as much in the last two other bigger campaigns. More of the playmats being exclusive, which again, I'm not going to buy playmats, but like if you look at the acrylic standees here, for example, there were 3 of them or so that were exclusive, or 1 or 2. I forget what it was. I mean, these are the exclusives right here for the acrylics, right? So all of the rest are non-exclusive, but you need to get those, and to get those are going to be a pretty penny. Now you can buy them separately as well, but this is all the exclusive stuff. More in the base pledge than it is when you go up necessarily to this. You're getting into the playmats down here, and the dice tower, and the playmat box, and the wooden resources, and the hex tokens. Not really anything significant on these, and the price jumps are really significant. 149 and 249. Like, I bet you could sell the Ultimate Collector set for 500 later. Do you have 250 to put down on that bet, though? I mean, I do, but I don't really want to. And so I have a feeling, now that time has passed, I'm probably not going to upgrade my pledge. Now, hold me to that? No, probably not. Because also the turnoff was, they said they'd have a gameplay video up in the actual campaign, just like they did with Here to Slay. And curiously, they went the whole campaign without it. So again, that doesn't harbor necessarily goodwill, because I feel like it was a little bit of bait and switch in that standpoint. So there you go. That's what I ended up backing and where my thoughts are almost a month out now. Just kidding. Actually, one more. I completely forgot because I wasn't sure when this ended. I mean, this is the hard part of doing this video this late, is because, you know, where did things sort of end up? Earth. If you heard me in the roundup when I talked about this one, the aesthetic was not really something I really enjoy. I mean, the Earth, the environment, it's just not something that speaks to me from a, I want to play this game as an attractive theme. But I got past that. I got past my own bias. And this is why I like doing these videos, not only for you guys, but why I do all the roundups each week, because it exposes me to stuff I never would have backed previously. And that is why I ended up backing this one, because the gameplay stands out. The play something and get like the minor powers or the major powers and the interactions, it won me over. And I think it's going to be a relatively good value. Connor, the designer, I've got his other game coming from Inside Up Games as well, Block and Key, which again hit some issues that weren't his fault whatsoever, some production issues. And so, I mean, again, the goodies, not really the biggest enticer on this, but more supporting a small publisher, and I don't have a whole lot like it from my collection. Because, I mean, the wooden stuff is going to be fine. And again, I argue that with the wooden stuff, it's going to hold its value because people will want it. Because, again, this is a game I look at and I go, there's no question about the nature of how good it's going to be. It's going to be a very solid game. It is. No doubts about that. And it's just whether or not it's going to fit with what you want. And there's some promo cards or something else like that with it, I think, too. They're going to be included. Anyway, tons of videos, too many videos. Here you go. Here are these extra cards that they talk about. We'll get to them eventually, maybe. I don't know where they are. They're here somewhere. But I don't need all this other extra stuff, and that's okay. But that was the only other thing I backed that ended in March. Because, spoilers, I can't tell you what I'm backing right now in April, because what would I do next month for the video then? But we'll talk about games that I had on my radar that I didn't back for a few reasons. So let's talk about that for a minute. First up, Hamlet. I am going to end up with this game probably in my collection at some point, but I didn't back it because I don't need a deluxe little wooden chapel thing or whatever it is, right? Because this is basically just the deluxe version. And for me, at this price, being higher than almost all of those other pledges that I mentioned in the other games, bar some 8, And I just looked at it and I go, you know what? This is one where I don't need the deluxifications, where I'm okay with not having deluxifications. I know that this one will be coming to retail. I mean, it did amazingly, smashingly well. Over $500,000 because, again, I think this is looking like a really, really good game. But it's one that I was willing to say I'm going to wait on. There wasn't enough why back now for me. Because, again, I'm okay with not getting it deluxe. If you want the deluxe and you want all this stuff, again, like I look at this and I don't really want the custom illustrated meeples. Those do nothing for me. The metal coins do nothing for me. And so if those are the reasons you're backing it, awesome, you get what you want. But for me, I can have a copy without those and pay a lesser price. And I'm okay with that. Shipping or not, whatever. So I'm completely made my peace with that. There you go, the cardboard church. And again, I'm not going to feel like I'm missing out. I sort of look at it like Radlands right now, right? I'd love a deluxe copy of Radlands. You know what? I've got the same game as you do, and I can play it the same way, and I can get the same experience as you, and I paid a quarter of the price. And so I'm okay with that in some situations. Again, your mileage may vary. What matters is that you're happy with it and you've made your peace with it. There's no FOMO here. So that was number one that is going to be eventually in my collection probably, but I just didn't decide to do it now. Another one, I decided to completely pass on Unsettled. Too Euro-y, too many overlaps with ISS Vanguard or Sleeping Gods in terms of content of that type. I was going to say ilk, even though I'm using ilk correctly in that sense. The grammar police out there are going to tell me. The buy-in for this is not the price point. The buy-in for this one is the time dedication. Do you have the time dedication for 9 planets or whatever it is? Because that's really where the issue is. Because if you're a crowdfunding junkie or peddler, the fact of the matter is you probably have enough money to do it if you want to. But money is not the issue nowadays. It's a time thing. It's an engagement thing. It's a get to the table over other stuff. And when I compare this to the other games that fall under that massive umbrella, again, I'm not saying that those games are exactly the same type of games mechanically or not, but it's about that overarching premises of a game like this. And that's where I can't see it winning the competition. Again, not going to debate that it's a good game or not. Plenty of people love it. That's not an issue. But is it going to hit my table? And the answer to that is no. It's a little too Euro-y for me as well. You know, would I be happy to play it? Would I be happy to trade for it? Would I be happy that someone brought it to game night and we had a chance to... Yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying any of those things. I think Orange Nebula puts out a great freaking product. But for me right now, it's less, again, a money thing and it's more a time thing to dedicate to it. And so that is my biggest worry, having several other things that I need to get out of the way first. Will I ever have it in my collection? Yeah, there's maybe a chance that it would end up in my collection. But right here, right now, that's why I said I'm going to pass right now. Because I could also see this game being somewhat like other campaign games that we have seen. I'm not saying this is a campaign game. Don't quote me in the comment section about things like that, because you're going to take it out. Please don't take it out of context. But it's a game that I could see people playing through a bunch and then saying, you know what, I've gotten my full enjoyment of this. Let me get rid of it and pass it on to someone else. And that's how I could see myself picking it up at some point. So there you go. 51st Ultimate State, also sort of the same thing. This was super tempting, and this was one that I just couldn't pull the trigger on. I had a couple of trade offers out there for it, but it was weird because it sort of felt like the Everdell all-in big box collection to me, where people were trying to dump their other versions for it so they could buy the all-in version, because the all-in version on this was a really good deal. I'll say that, Portal Games. You put out a good deal, you put out a good product, you put out a good new expansion on this, but my only problem was I'm trying not to be this all-in person that I have been in the past. Because I'm seeing several games, including things like Rise of Malak or Bloodborne, or things along that aspect. Now, again, this is non-miniatures, so less room taken up, less, space, less boxes in general, easily condensed. But I just looked at it and I go, I don't need the all-in. I would love it, and I'd love some of these exclusives, but I'm willing to pass on it. I just got a game that fits similarly to this in a different way. And not saying, again, they're similar, but Fantastic Factories. I picked up a bundle pledge from someone slightly less than what it went for. And if I'm patient, I may end up doing the same thing. And again, the stretch goals are the things that, are going to be harder to get. And that was almost the reason why I just maybe was going to back for the new expansion to get some of the stretch goals. But I just decided not to. Like, this is a game I know is highly regarded, and I think I would really like it. But at some point, I can't back everything either. And so I'm picking and choosing. I am being super picky lately about what I'm getting and what I'm not getting. And so this one didn't make the cut as much as I am actually a fan of wanting to try this out. If I ever pick this up, I think I'm actually going to get a lot of it. But it's just, again, it's more a matter of when. And I decided to wait. And I may wait until the middle of 2023 to see where things are at. Or, let's see, are they doing a late backer pledge? Probably. They probably are. So, I wouldn't be surprised on that. And that's the other thing. If I try it out in the next couple weeks, maybe I get, see Pledge Manager soon. So I would imagine late backing is going to be probably part of that. So speaking of late backing, Earth Under Siege is also doing its late pledge right now. And again, having a hands-on copy of this was very, very telling. And I like being able to do some of that sometimes. So again, I can start to not only face what I like and what I think I like, but also face my biases. I just played Encyclopedia this last weekend, a game that is, if you follow this channel whatsoever, outside of my normal repertoire. I don't do a lot of worker placement. I don't do a lot of dice worker placement. I love dice. Dice don't like me. Got trounced in Space Base 2 weekends ago again. But this was a nice fit in that sense that, okay, in theory, I think I'm going to like this game. Let's see how it is hands-on. And I said, whoa, this game is really cool. Whoa, this game is too much for me. It was so detailed, so immersive, so overhead, knowledge-wise, learning, that I said, again, comparing it to those other miniature-based crawl-esque games that I've got, and I said, I am slowly shifting away from that. Not out of it by any means. I'm looking at plenty of these games I've got here that I haven't played yet and I want to play that are staying. But I said, comparatively, this is going to be not as good a fit as some of these others are. But I know that people were looking for this. I mean, it raised $200,000 for a reason. And it's doing something detail-orient-wise that even the Assassin's Creeds and V Commandos of the world didn't do to this greater extent. And so it sets it apart in that sense. But for me, I said, no, this is great. Because then as soon as I played it, I said the temptation is not there for me, which is good. Because there is always a temptation when you see these and you go, the grass is always greener. So there you go. So that was my March at the end of April. Now, hopefully, I will not film the April video at the beginning of May and then launch it at the end of May, because then I'm just making way too much work for myself all in one. So hopefully I don't completely screw this up again. But as always, I'm bound to mess things up, and I'm bound to just do things that are completely irregular, because that's also what I do. So that's all I got. I have a couple reviews sitting in the wings that I need to get to and take pictures for games, because I need some B-roll, and that's what I'm going to be doing afterwards. So stay classy. Have a great day. I hate doing B-roll. Side note here. I do B-roll that is actually gameplay for the most part, except for I did some B-roll for Phasalis, which is the, kids board game, table game. And I took like my Lego dinosaurs from my kids' rooms and did that. Anyway, B-roll though is a pain in the butt, but I do my B-roll. A lot of people I feel like when I look at a lot of other people's videos and they do their B-roll, a large portion of them don't feel like actual gameplay situations, right? And so I try to do my B-roll as actual game situation setups, not just like making them super, super pretty that would never end up like that. Like you have like the superhero pose, and then they're like backlit, and then there's like nothing else, and it's like fluorescent light here, fluorescent light there, and I just don't do that. I'm going to give you what it actually looks like when you're playing, because, that's what you want to know, right? You don't want to know what... anybody can take a picture outside with board game pieces strewn across the grass or the backyard, but that's not where I'm going to be playing the game. So that's my take, and I'm sticking to it. See you around.